Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what you want me to check out. If you'd like to submit your own special selection, you can find a link to do so in the description below. Today's special selection comes at us from Damien. It says Unwound, Terminus. Unwound were once one of the most prolific Olympia underground rock bands in the 90s. In their earlier years, they mostly played noisy, anxious post-hardcore, but they started experimenting with making more and more ambitious records with time. Their outgoing nature culminated in 2001 with their final album before disbandment due to artistic burnout, Leaves Turn Inside You. They expanded their palette through the use of mellotron, piano, orchestral instrumentation, somber and subdued atmosphere, very experimental usage of stereo panning, and cryptic lyricism. To this day, people still scratch their heads on how to label the album. Is it post-hardcore, indie rock, psychedelia, or maybe even post-rock? Well, one thing is certain. This still sounds original after 20 years. Alright, so we're going to dig into some Unwound, Terminus. And I don't even know how to get into the right mindset to get into this, given that people still don't know how to classify it. So I guess I'm just going to expect the unexpected. Let's dive into this. We got Terminus. Alright, got a little bit of a gallop, we got shaker. Left hand vocals? Wow. Very interesting production, especially in the relationship of how the vocals are done. Extremely sparse percussive element. Yeah, the guitar is actually used for a couple of ideas, like this scraping sound right here, but we saw a melodic riff just prior. It's such a sparse production too. I think that's the and like that line's weird too because yeah, so the right vocal is actually moving between hand sides, but the left vocal is staying where it is, so it just feels like this unevenness. So there's this unnerving tension that's been present in every situation so far, every section. It's really the thing that ties this whole song together. And I have some thoughts about it. We'll wait. It's amazing how this violin part feels so consonant against the chaos. It doesn't feel like it should fit, and it does. Oh, and that warble effect that was on the right vocals is now on the center instrument. Sounds like it could be a piano or even a plucked violin. Actually, the violin's been pushed to the side. Yeah, that's cool. Ooh. Yeah, I really like the way that the guitar, the bass, and the glockenspiel is playing off of each other. Actually, it might be a piano. The warble is heavily distorting the timbre, though. Bass laying down some rhythmic elements here. Coloring outside the lines and some of the guitar lines. Yeah, introducing some instability through dissonance. Some tasty hi-hat in there. Before we get into the analysis, I do want to rewind this back a second, and I want to hear that transition piece between these two movements. this. All right. I feel a little bit more equipped to talk about this, but I really do not feel equipped at all to talk about this. Um, so this is a song. There's a lot of song. There's a lot of things going on in here. I think I don't even know where I want to start. Oh man. All right, so what if we began in we're gonna start with the instrumentation. There is a lot of stuff going on in here as far as voices go. We have vocals. We have a second vocal that has some effects on it. We have guitar, bass, drums. Eventually, we see some violin, some piano. Maybe a couple atmospheric things I'm missing. There's quite a bit of things going on that are not always utilized. The strings didn't come in until about halfway into the song. The piano showed up sparingly up until the end when it was featured prominently. The secondary vocal was just kind of came and went when it wanted to and did some interesting things. And of course, having this large instrumentation allows them to do exactly this, where some instruments can come in and some instruments can leave, and they can kind of select the right timbres for the right situation. And this is something I've talked about in regards to jazz bands or larger orchestras. That is a feature that they have that a lot of rock and metal doesn't. In that rock and metal bands, if you want to get rid of your bass, you've also lost your low end part of the song. You don't really have an opportunity to play around with timbre because of the limited color palette, so to speak. You're not painting with a lot of colors. Here we have a ton of instruments that can be utilized that can cover various ranges or various ideas. We saw a piano utilized in a rhythmic, sorry, not a piano, a bass used in a rhythmic fashion, but we also saw the bass utilized in a melodic fashion. So there's a lot of areas that we can remove instruments and get a completely different vibe. And then we can add other instruments, take other ones out, and get a very different vibe as well without ever having to worry about missing out on an aspect of the song unless it's intentionally desired to be left out. So yeah, right off the bat, I absolutely love the large range of instruments that are present here. It affords a flexibility that I think is required, especially once you start getting into more experimental music making. This is something also that I praise about electronic music because they have a limitless palette to work with. The next thing I think is worth bringing up, and it sort of ties into this, is the production of the instruments themselves. Not necessarily the production of the sound. We're not going to go into how the song sounds yet, but we're going to touch on how each individual instrument has been produced to achieve a specific idea. There's a lot of clean elements in here. The strings, the guitar, the left pan clean vocal, the bass, the drums. I don't remember if I said the drums. Yeah, they all have a very straightforward production. It's all about EQing them against the rest of the band so that they are present but not isolated, and ensuring that they can be heard. Then we have stuff like the warble piano, which I'm still not sure if it's a piano or a glockenspiel. In fact, it might not even be a glockenspiel because it has a very light attack to it. So it might even be something like a marimba, a xylophones family, um, with even something soft like a yarn mallet. Um, but it also kind of sounds like a piano. I don't know. The effects on it really muddy up its core timbre, so it's difficult to tell what exactly it is. But it is some sort of um, percussive tuned instrument. I know calling a piano a percussive instrument is kind of weird, but it's about hammers hitting strings, and that's kind of percussive to me. So I'm grouping it in there right now, just to make it easier. Um, so yeah, we have this instrument that has this like wide warble on it, and it creates sort of this unknowing element to that instrument itself. And we saw this previously, in fact, on the right pan vocals, and that was interesting as well. It's also really cool. You know, we talk about creating this cohesion between parts of a song by passing ideas or themes or melodies onto different instruments so that we can continue almost this thread that can be seen as tying the song together. And this is something I don't think I've ever talked about before, is passing production on between instruments. What used to be a defining aspect of one of the vocals became a defining aspect of the piano. And that really makes me wonder if that works thematically. What was the purpose for that? Do they have individual concepts for each of these instruments, whether it's an emotion tied to it, or maybe they hear some sort of story in here, and each of the instruments is an actor in the story, a character in the story, and is there something passed between these two? There's a lot of context I'm missing. We're going to dive into the lyrics in a bit. I don't know them yet. Like I said, we'll dive into that in a second. But there's context with the lyrics, the rest of the album, what even their intentions were. They could also have had an idea in their head that didn't show up in the rest of the song. Um, but it really makes me, wonder what was the reasoning behind that. And then we talk about going back to that right pan vocal. So first of all, it is very strange to have a left pan lead vocal. Anything lead being panned to a side without a balancing act to it makes the song feel lopsided. And this song certainly did for the majority of the first half of the song, where we had these vocal sections where we had the left side and then nothing on the right to balance it out. Eventually, we do get this warbling second vocal where it feels like the volume is coming in and fading out, coming in, fading out. And it's disorienting hugely, but it also, at least to me, evokes almost an element of nausea, because the weightiness of the song, the balance of the song, like I said, it's already tipping over, right? And then we get this harmony. We're like, okay, we're balancing out, and then the harmony fades out, and we fall back to the left, and then that comes back in, and it balances out, and it's this teeter tottering that just reeks of instability, and it's just very disorienting. But then, to make matters even worse, I don't know why they decided to do this, but they did, and I applaud them for going all in on this concept. I think it was during the chorus, they had that right pan vocal warble and then drift to the left and then drift to the right. So we're not even getting this volume warbling on the right. We're getting a volume warble plus a panning warble. And it's just the most I mean, we've listened to some stuff where the production has I don't remember what it was. One song actually made me feel nauseous. It wasn't just the concept or a thematic element of discomfort. I physically got nauseous from the production of it. I don't remember what that was, but we've checked that out. We've checked out some songs that induce the idea of discomfort or imbalance. I think this one takes the cake as far as pushing that concept to its limits. It is an unnerving production in the chorus, and I do not ever want to listen to that again. I am very thankful that they did not bring the chorus back in the second half of the track. We got it over with in the first 4 minutes or so, and the vocals as a whole just kind of left, which created a stability in the song, actually, which is interesting because we didn't have the weird warbling on the right side, and the left pan vocals were gone, so we didn't have this lack of balance going on, and everything just kind of came together. The song actually is quite beautiful in the moments that it's not trying to destroy itself, which we'll get into when we talk about the section that came after the vocals. Yeah, it's really quite beautiful. There's a lot of really nice parts to it, and the production at the beginning is just, it really tries to undo it. And it makes me wonder about, again, their decisions, their intentions here. What is going on? It's just, I have a lot of questions for this group because this song has really kind of pushed my boundaries as far as listenability. There's a lot of sections in here that I really love, and many of those sections that I liked, I felt were ruined by the production. And ruined is a bit of a strong word. I don't want to say that they would be better with cleaner productions. The song would be totally different, and as a work of art, it would have a completely different feel, vibe, theme, atmosphere, meaning, all of that. I don't think that the song should be changed in any way, but as it stands, this is a song I would not want to come back to. And I feel like with some minor tweaks, not to the music itself, but to the production of it, the EQ, the placement of things, it would be an extremely palatable song that I would absolutely love to listen to. Um, and it's really, like I said, it really pushes my listening to it, because it walks this very fine line between enjoyable and discomfort and unease, and it's constantly teetering back and forth between them. And so what that ends up making the song feel like to me is anxiety. And I'm not sure if any anxiety is what they were going for. I definitely get elements of, um, the discomfort, the unease, but also a bit of paranoia in the music, especially the first half. The second half, uh, we'll have to get into that in a moment. That's a completely different vibe. But the first half of the track feels very anxious, very paranoid, very uneasy. And a lot of that just comes to the fact that none of the parts are really working well with each other. They're existing. They're not really detrimental to the other parts. The bass isn't interfering with what the guitar is doing, which isn't interfering with what the drums are doing, which isn't interfering with what the vocals are doing. But they're all just kind of there doing their own things in isolation that just happen to sound all right together. And it's like this, it's almost like this element that the instruments can't trust each other, right? That there has to be so much separation between them, not just in the production, where it feels like there's so much space between the instruments, but also musically, where none of them are really lining up. There is some overstepping where it feels, oh, the bass and the drum are lining up rhythmically, and they're really enforcing this cadence, and then that stops happening after a bar. And I mentioned that there was one part where I said I liked the bass and the guitar and the drums, how they were all playing off of each other. And honestly, that didn't last very long. It feels like a bunch of people who want to work together, but are so uncomfortable with the idea that any collaboration is going to turn to a mess that they just don't. ideas overlap and they sound great together, but nobody ever makes the commitment to cooperate, to collaborate, to come together. And the moments where we do see collaboration, like the two vocals, especially during the chorus, we get that massive panning. The vocals are coming together, but they're coming together in like the strangest way ever, where we have this pocket over on the right with nothing happening anymore, and it makes it so unbalanced. Not to mention that the right pan vocals are still got that warble thing going on, which is creating a little bit of dissonance with the left. And yeah, the one time we actually see some instruments playing off of each other for an extended period of time, it is just not going well at all. And it's almost like, because we saw that early on, only like a minute in. I think that was long before we started to see any collaboration between the others, and it was almost as some sort of um, not foreshadowing, but like an example to point to. Like we could work together, but you'd see what happened with the vocals when they did. That wasn't great. We're doing okay on our own, right? We just stick with that. And I don't think any of this has anything to do with the themes of the song. We're going to dive into the lyrics in a bit, but this is just what the song speaks to me in this opening section. I do think it's really interesting, though, that as soon as the vocals leave, the band starts to work together. We get some really nice counterpoint. We get some rhythmic ideas bouncing off of each other. We start entering into a super groovy section where the bass and the drum take lead. And the band really starts to come together here. There's still some interesting choices here as far as separation of instrumentation and some panning concepts. But for the most part, after the vocals leave, the song really gets a strong element of cohesion going. Um, we even get that moment that I said was quite beautiful despite the chaos with the violin taking lead. And this is something else I want to bring back into the production for just a second, is that instruments are not set in stone as far as placement. First of all, we saw or heard the right pan vocals move over to the left, and again, it was very uncomfortable. But later on, we hear the violin take a front and center position during its lead line, and when it's playing more atmospheric things and kind of laying down more of a chordal idea, it gets pushed over to the right. So instruments are kind of doing this musical chairs idea where they're moving around in the sound sphere based on their role in the song, which I think is really interesting. It's another way of passing the baton other than passing musical ideas around. We saw the passing of production, now we're seeing the passing of placement. And it's not something that's hyper unusual. If you look at modern rock and metal, the guitars tend to be more side panned. And then if there's a solo section, the guitar takes center stage solo. So it's not like it's a drastically new idea to do this, but it does move in stark contrast to what the vocals were doing at the beginning, playing the lead melody, but not taking the lead spot. And once again, I don't know what any of this means. But why does the song work so well after the vocals leave? Why do all the instruments come together and start playing their roles properly in the proper production spaces that they should be if this were, I mean, I keep saying proper, and what I mean is more traditional, more mainstream. I'm not saying there's only one way to produce a song or one way to do equalizing or spacing or anything like that, but the more traditional way of doing it, when it's almost like school, right? And the teacher's teaching and everybody's proper and attention and doing the classwork, and the teacher has to leave for a moment and the class just erupts, right? And then you can actually see the relationships, the friendships, people are having fun, they're playing games together, and when the teacher comes back, everybody's back into their own world, right? And so when the vocals are going, everybody's in their own world. And when the vocals leave, now it's a group party. Now everybody's getting together and doing stuff. And I don't know why that's the image I'm getting. I don't know what that has to do with Terminus. I don't know what that has to do with the lyrics that we're going to dive into in a second, but I don't. Wow, what is a weird song, right? Um, but yeah, so instruments start working together. We get the groove section, and then all of this sort of bounces back and forth between a little bit more of chaotic, loud bits, and then sort of more pensive, mellower sections, and we kind of bounce back and forth between that for a bit. And this is where we start seeing some of the musical chairs, where we get the warble piano lead on the more pensive sections, and then that pulls out, and the violin goes in center for the louder, more chaotic sections where it takes lead. And we get this bouncing back and forth, and it's hyper contrast, two sides of the same coin kind of thing. A lot of the musical aspects underneath are not really changing much. It's just adding extra layers that create some of this extra contrast and lack of stability. But a lot of the musical elements underneath in both of the sections are very similar. So it's this really nice duality aspect going on here between a chaotic element and a pensive element. And then we move from this into the violin duet. And I've got nothing for this. I even went back and listened to it, hoping that I could see it as some sort of tie between the two sections, knowing what would come after it. And, I mean, it's a necessary transition, and maybe it is simply a functional structure. But and it has no connection at all to my aforementioned concept of instruments playing in isolation and then coming together to form nicer ideas that work well together. And then we just get this part, and then it moves into one of the most pensive parts of the song. It is chill. We got this nice groove going. There's a little bit of instability introduced in one of the guitar lines. Some really beautiful things playing, and then there's like a flat note, and not just like B flat, but a note that's half a step down from what would be expected given the key signature, and it creates this little bit of momentary tension before returning back to the mostly beautiful aspect of it. And this happens in a couple of places where we just introduce these little minor elements of dissonance, of instability. So almost in a way of saying, this part's beautiful. This song has, it's in stark contrast to what we just heard, which is a bit more chaotic, a bit more dissonant, but it's not perfect. It has cracks. And yeah, I absolutely love this final section. I have no idea how it works in the song as a whole, other than the fact that maybe it is the two sides of a coin idea, just like when we saw on a micro level in the previous section, we're seeing on a macro level here, where the first 5 minutes or whatever, and this final minute and a half or 2 minutes are very similar. We have similar production, we have similar EQing, we have similar panning, we have similar instrumentation, but we have two drastically different feels. One is groovier and chill, and the other one was chaotic and hectic. But aside from just seeing that relationship, I don't know what's going on here at all. So I guess this is a good time to dig into the lyrics and see if there's anything in there that might give me a glimpse into what the intentions were. And I know that Damien, I think it was Damien. Let me check this real quick, catch myself. Yeah, Damien had stated that the lyrics were cryptic. So I'm not thinking I'm going to get much out of this, but it's worth a look. Yeah, nope. That's not helping at all. Just seems to be the verse is just a bunch of contradicting ideas. Break me, I'm not broke. Take me, I'm not took. Kill me, I'm not dead. Drain me, I'm not bled. Make me, I'm a crook. Wash me, I'm a lake. Love me, I'm so mean. It's all these it's a demand followed by a description of the narrator, of the singer. And then we have the pre-chorus, in light of my 7 weeks of melting pleasure, melting pleasure. Going into the chorus, hold me, I'm a gun, 6 shots and I'll be gone. Hold me, I'm the one, tomorrow I'll be gone. Over and over and over. Both times that we see the pre-chorus, chorus concept, the lyrics are the same. Yeah, to say that this is cryptic is an understatement. It's gibberish as far as I'm concerned. There might be some underlying concepts here, but I mean, if I were to force what I felt from the music into the lyrics, I could probably make a case for duality. Two sides of the same coin. Um, but I feel like I'm grabbing at straws there, reaching for straws. Oh, what's that phrase? Why can't I think of that? Grasping at straws. It's I don't even know how to go about. This is just a weird song. I would love to know more about it. But from what it sounds like in Damien's description, they have not elaborated on their music at all, which is both a shame and something I deeply respect. I really do. Not all art needs to be explained, and I think sometimes the oddness of it is honestly one of the best parts. Some of my favorite films and books are ambiguous in what they're intending to say, and it's up to the consumer of said art to bring their own biases into it and to pull their own narrative or moral or theme or anything out of it. And I think that's what's going on here. It's intentionally cryptic in a way that I think could be read in a lot of different ways, and different people are going to pull different things out of it. And the music goes along with that. It is extremely cryptic musically as well. There's a lot of things that don't make sense, but there are things that do make sense. There's some things that don't work together, and there's some other aspects that work together so well, not just in a specific situation, but how things are tied from the beginning to end, that it is simultaneously a song that is at ends with itself being extremely chaotic and unnerving and disjointed, but it also feels like an extremely cohesive track despite that. It's that duality of feeling incomplete yet complete at the same time, like someone who needs to be washed despite being a lake. Those are my thoughts on Unwound's Terminus. This is where you guys come in, hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed that one or not. If you have anything to add, I am all ears. Especially on stuff like this where I'm walking away more confused than sure of what's going on. I'm always open to hear other people's interpretations or experiences with the music. So please let me know if you had a completely different experience or if you have something to expand upon what I mentioned. Go ahead and drop those comments down there. Above the comment section is a description box. In there is a link for Linktree. It'll take you to this menu right here, which has links for everything related to the channel. You can support me through Patreon, join the Twitter, follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, buy some merch, submit your own special selection, email me. There's a lot of stuff in there. Go ahead and check it out. And above that, as usual, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC as usual. We'll be looking at our penultimate black metal origins track and our last special selection for the week. Alright, until next time, remember to be critical but not cynical of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.